Welcome back. Now, Children's Day, of course, like we know, is on the 27th of May, and which is in 2 days. And I have here two special guests to talk about the rights of the Nigerian child, of course, while also focusing on the children who were kidnapped in Borno State, over 200 of them still missing after 41 days. I have here with me Francis Anyawike, former whip, National Children's Parliament. You're very welcome.
Thank you very much.
And of course, Charles Anyawike, child rights advocate. You're very welcome here today. Let's start with you, Francis, now. And, you know, I talked about the issue that these girls are still missing 41 days after. What does this all portend for the Nigerian child?
Well, it's really very saddening to note that 41 days after the abduction of these young girls, they're still missing. It means a whole lot because, like, right at the state they are in right now, we can't even, there are a lot of factors that are at play right now. You talk about health issues, you talk about traumatic, the trauma they're going through right now. Beyond that, if you look at the health status to start with, the World Health Organization defines it as a proper state of being, health-wise, psychologically, and mentally. You know, I don't think these girls are in the right frame of mind, as it were, you understand? Many of them probably would have seen the second or maybe first menstrual cycle out there in the wild, where the sanitary conditions are not really very good. You talk about the stress these young people will go through. Even if they leave this place, when they get rescued eventually, they will still, the trauma will still stay. And that's one of the reasons why I think post-trauma work and effort should be directed at them. It means a whole lot because these kids are vulnerable, and all the kids around the world will be celebrating tomorrow, in 2 days' time, and they will just still be there. You know, these are a lot of issues, and I think we really need to do more. We need to still continue to negotiate and make every effort to make sure that these girls are out before Tuesday, hopefully. It means a whole lot for their parents, for their caregivers. I can imagine the trauma they're going through right now, and I just hope that this can be addressed as soon as possible.
Well, last week, Mr. President did send a message to some of the protesters in Abuja saying that they were protesting to the wrong person. I mean, some of their anger should be directed at Boko Haram, which some, I mean, there were mixed receptions to that message. But I think what was significant for me last week was the fact that the Nigerian Union of Teachers have joined. Absolutely. Some schools, I think most government schools were closed down for a whole day. Yes. Yeah. And you wonder, is this something that's going to be ongoing now? Are schools going to be shut down at some point completely? Children's Day is coming. These are children. I was in Abuja 2 or 3 weeks ago when a school sent back my nephew or my niece back home for a week because they weren't sure about their safety. You know, things like that are starting to happen. I wonder what's going to happen to education, basically.
You know, beyond shutting schools down, if you ask me, I think I like to look at the positives. Unfortunately, we're not talking about it. None of our schools have any child protection policies for them. And you will think that this will be an opportunity for probably the education authorities, starting with the NUC, to begin to canvass for proper child protection policies in these schools. Structurally, what are the child protection policies that are in place? I give an instance. In the north, for instance, within schools around the Chibok village, most of those schools do not even have perimeter fencing. So the first line of defense for any external attack, apart if it wasn't even the Boko Haram, if it was a communal clash that was going on in that community, the school children are vulnerable because they have no perimeter fencing. So these are some of the issues that we should begin to look at. You know, look at the child protection policies in these schools. What are in place to protect our students from going into centers of learning? What are the things? It goes beyond us closing the schools down. If we close them now, if they are released, what do we do? How do we ensure that we begin to put in certain policies that put our children at the apex of every protection policies that we want to see happen in this country? That, for me, is a major concern.
What should be the message that we want to send out on Children's Day now? Because it's their day. And it's a day that most of them are actually worried. We've seen even pictures of children protesting as well because of the children abducted. Should there be like a unified message on that day, at least from the children, to the leadership or whoever it is that should bring these girls back?
I think one of the key things that should continue is, like the current campaign, the Bring Back Our Girls campaign that is running across the nation, internationally, everywhere around the world. I think there should be a sustained effort on that. Not only that that should be directed at leaders, as it were, I have a belief that most of these guys from these terrorist cells are also watching as well, too. I think they should channel their messages and make sure that they channel it as well to them, saying, we need these girls back. We know you're watching. We know you're listening to us, because they have people around, probably will be eavesdropping and saying, they can understand how people are feeling. Let young people actually line up and actually talk more. I can give an example. Before the passage of the Child Rights Act in 2003, one of the things that happened was that for some of us child parliamentarians then, we had to go into the lobby of the National Assembly and we had to watch from the gallery, because it was thrown out as the first time it went in. So when it got to the second reading or thereabout, we went in and said, okay, now, let's see those who are going to stand against the bill. What do they have to say that might be different? So looking up and seeing kids up there and looking at our faces and the messages we had on our face, they said, oh, this is about us. It's about our protection. It's about our survival. It's about our development and participation rights. So seeing us alone, they connected with that message and they were able to pass the Child Rights Act. What children should concentrate on Tuesday basically is to just come together, create synergy, push out the message, not just to the leaders, to everybody that can actually assist in this cause. The religious leaders, people listen to them. Up north, I had the experience of serving in the north. Many of these guys actually listen to their religious leaders. I think it's quite important that religious leaders need to speak up at this point, talk to their followers, speak to them and make them realize that we want these girls back. We want them safe and sound. We've worried for too long. Their parents are consigned, their guardians are consigned, everyone all over the world is consigned. I have friends who get across to me from different parts of the world every day. Francis, what's happening in your country? What can we do? How can we support you guys and all of this? And I think the message out there on that day is that we need these girls back. They are our peers. We want them back, safe and alive.
Yeah. You mentioned the Child Rights Act there, and it got me thinking, all of the drama that went around, the passage, and, does it make you have faith that something like that was not even priority for those in leadership? You now see the way this sort of thing has snowballed now with, the girls being abducted. Does it make you get the sense that the children are actually important?
When you ask for the major message that we would, or the children rather, should see as priority for them at Children's Day, for me would be the importance of our young people, our future generations in this country. It would shock you to know about the drama that ensued during the whole Child Rights Act in 2003. Until date, we still have a handful of states, especially in the north, that have not ratified the Child Rights Act and made it a law in their states. That goes to show you the priority that we place on our future generations, and it is quite unfortunate. For me, it's a complete systemic failure. You have people who are at the ends of affairs who are making these laws and are breaking it at will. The controversial issues of child marriage and the likes, and you still have lawmakers who are breaking it with all impunity, and nothing can be done to that. So for me, it's a systemic failure that needs to be addressed. It's one thing for us to create this document, It's another thing for us to put adequate measures to ensure that they are adhered to the latter. And again, adhering to the latter is to ensure that we educate young people. Basically, what I do as a child rights advocate is to see that young people at the receiving end of this violation, of this denial, know their rights, and then respectfully know how to demand for it. It's only when children know about their rights. And for instance, people see the issue of child's rights as being an alien issue. When we begin to educate Nigerians that first and foremost, children's rights are human rights. There's nothing that is stipulated in the documents, any of the documents, either the Child Rights Act or the Convention on the Right of the Child, or even the one in Lagos State, the Child Rights Law in Lagos State, all those things stipulated there are equally human rights. Once people begin to see it as priority, then we begin to see this, to see how we can tackle the systemic failure that is hindering the implementation of any of these rights.
Yeah. What are some of the things in the act or the law that's made it such a problem to pass?
Okay, way back,
making it difficult to ratify.
Some of the things that made it very difficult for 2/3 of the House of Assemblies in Nigeria to actually ratify it to make it a law. It includes issues as age, lowering of the age of, the Nigerian Constitution recognizes a child as anyone below the age of 18. and the United Nations does as well. That's the standard global recognition around the world. Now, many states are saying, okay, we get involved in early child marriages and all that. Now, how would you talk about a child? What about if I have a bride that hasn't attained the age of 18? Does that mean that I'm at the other side of the law? So these are issues of concerns, and many of the northern legislators then, they had a lot of issue with that. They wanted them to lower the age of from 18, probably to about 14, 12, or 15, as it were. Some states actually passed they domesticated the law in their states. They brought it down to 16. Some states did. So it depends. They had to actually adapt it to their local context. I think issue of age was a very, very, very big issue, and it still remains a very big issue, because I think any child who is below 18 is not properly formed. You know, this is why we have issues like VVF, where you notice that the body of the child is not really made up very well. At the end of the day, because of childbirth, it widens the fallopian tube. By the end of the day, the child starts passing out urine and feces uncontrollably. These are issues. VVF is predominant in some parts of the country because of early child marriages. So I think issue of age was a big factor, and religious issues as well too. You know, Nigeria is a secular state, and issues of religion actually can send things to the boiling point. It's a very, very big issue anytime, any day. So issues about religious context, what does my religion say, what does your religion say? These were very, very big issues. Some were saying these were alien to us, it's coming from the United Nations, it's way too different. But interestingly enough, there's an Africa Charter on the Rights and Welfare of a Child. All the African countries are signatory to this. This was adapted from the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. And that was where the Nigerian Child Rights Act actually came out from, you understand? Came from. So these are processes from the international level down to Africa, down to Nigeria. States should just domesticate this thing. What does this advocate for? The protection, the development, the survival and participation rights of young people. Children have a right to survive. They have a right to a name. They have a right to be protected. They have parental protection. They have a right to participate in decisions affecting them. The UN Convention actually says the state always has to act in the best interest of the child. So if you have any issue, first you ask, what is the best interest of the child? That should be the paramount thing. So